and welcome to Twin Flames Between Worlds podcast. My name is Tabitha.
And I'm Liesl.
And welcome back to episode 3 of A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. Yep, welcome back. Honestly, I really love these summary episodes because I just love going through this stuff again.
I've started rereading ACOTAR again.
It's so, I don't know, to most people who have read this book before, it's super nostalgic to me. Because again, I read this back when I was in freshman in college, and it was 2018. So we're going to talk about chapters 11 through 15, to the end of 15 of Court of Thorns and Roses. So let's get right into it.
Let's get it.
So we ended on a cliffhanger last time. Her father magically appeared. Well, not magically appeared, but she saw him at the gates to the manor.
I think it was as good as magically appeared, considering he's a crippled old man.
Yeah. I definitely remember thinking, oh, I don't buy that he was there. I was very sus. Because I was like, okay. Like I said last episode, didn't he tell you to leave and never come back or whatever? And it's like, he's crippled. How the hell did he get there? But so
I think I was more convinced that he was real. I was very confused as to how he was there, but I'm like, well, hey, he's here. That's great. What's going to happen now?
Right. And I put in my notes because I remember us talking about this in the last episode, you specifically. She finally goes out the window after him. She uses she uses the clothes to climb down.
The vines?
Well, yeah, but also it reminded me of the Beauty and the Beast moment.
Oh, yeah. Yes, definitely.
That you were talking about last time. So yeah, basically, so she's going out there and then she sees him, right? And she describes it as there's no horses. He doesn't have any warm clothes for the winter outside because obviously they were in winter versus this is spring.
Right.
So she seems like something's a little bit off, but she's making excuses for that and saying,
she's just so happy to see him.
Yeah, because, the horses are... Because I think at this point, she's so much in her self-loathing that she didn't feel like she was, to her family, was worth saving. So the fact that he was there made it show that he cared, finally, for once.
It's like after all those years of taking care of them, did they finally come back for me? Did they come for me?
Right. And then but it's not long before she hears and a massive hand wraps around her arm, going somewhere.
Terrifying.
Which, of course, he snuck up on her really easily. But it's Tamlin again.
And he has his claws out, or at least his teeth out, his teeth sharpened, and she's just terrified.
She's thinking nope, there's no more room for mercy. He's gonna kill her now because she's running away.
Yeah, or worse, gonna kill the father.
Which is funny because I was thinking to myself, he told her that she could, again, leave and not come back. At least live somewhere else in Prithian. But I guess maybe because she thought she was going to run out with her father, maybe she thought, oh, this is where he kills me. I guess I get her thought in that. But I was thinking to myself, I was like, I think he's more just worried, what the heck are you think you're doing?
Going out into Prithian, which is already dangerous enough for a human, at night.
So he goes, wait. Your father, what are you talking about? And then he bares his teeth at it, and then it's so interesting because I didn't pick this up the first time when I read this, but the illusion starts to change. So it starts to warp into her sister's cowering, and then it turns back into her father, and then I think what else was it?
So it was her father first, and then a bow and arrow, or bow and quiver, and then her sisters, and back to her father. So she's I think it is interesting, yeah. The fact that bow and arrows, it's okay, well, it turns into what you most want. So why at that exact moment did she want the bow and quiver of ash arrows specifically? Why at that moment did she want ash arrows? Was she so scared that she wanted to just shoot Tamlin right then and there?
I would think so, or at least have it so that if she faced something else while she was in the wilderness.
Yeah, that's what I just think of right now, but I definitely didn't consider that.
Oh no, I didn't pick up on this at all. So obviously she's devastated. And obviously he's mad because she's trying to run away, but also at the same time, I never got the sense that he was mad at her because she was running away. It was because she was running away at so obviously this is a creature and he describes it as the puka. So it's like an illusionary fae. But we'll get to that in a minute. But he's mad at her because she's going out at night. She doesn't have any supplies with her. Like, I think he's more thinking, okay, you didn't, like, prepare at all for this. Didn't somebody tell you to, like, you know, keep your wits about you?
If you're gonna run away, at least don't be dumb about it.
It's like, at least go in the daytime. So I think this is like the first time that she's reiterating to him very pointedly that she doesn't want to stay there. Like, she's finally showing a little bit of her emotions and saying like I don't want to be here. This isn't home. Do you think I would gladly just stay here forever? And then he asks her,
"What do you want?"
Yeah, he's like, "What do you?" Which is such an interesting question because he's not like saying, he's not like being mean or anything.
He's just very simply of, "What do you want?" And like, she's just like straight up, "I want to go home."
And granted, to him, okay, I know he doesn't get like the sentimentality, but he's like, okay, why would you want to live back in that like pitiful existence you had more than this? You know what I mean?
At least she knew what that was.
Like now she's kind of just thrown into this, and also it's also because of the promise that she made, which is, again, I want to reiterate this. This is like the first time that she's opening up to him in any sort of way when it comes to how she feels, how she truly feels. So she tells him about her mother's vow and how she's essentially breaking it. And I think even though they're like walking back to the house and not really looking at each other, I think he definitely softens his voice, and it's like, you're not breaking your vow. It's like they're better.
It's like he realizes.
Mm-hmm.
He realizes that she has not lived as long as he has, and that her emotions are, while she hides them, they're very like first life kind of feeling. Like she's just like, I want to go home to my family. I need to take care of them. I would rather like live with them and take care of them in this hovel rather than stay here with you in this place. And he's like, okay, I can understand that. It's almost like he's speaking to a child.
Yeah, I can see that. But also, I don't really like to think of it as he's talking to a child. I think it's more like he's talking to somebody with like less life experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's like sometimes when like, I don't know, it's like sometimes when I talk to you, like in terms of like some things that I've been through in terms of like you haven't.
That's true.
Like me talking about my senior year versus, you know, you going through your senior year, like 2 years later, you know?
A difference, of course, is though that I actually listen to your advice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and she doesn't. Well, okay, she does start listening to him because with her, you know, the fairies can't lie thing, he says more specifically,
right,
they are fed and comfortable. So that's more of like a specific than he gave before. So she's like, well, if they can't lie, then it's like, then that's what she's hoping, that they are
right.
fed.
She's got to believe him, right?
Which is kind of sad because it just leads her down this rabbit hole of like self-doubt and self-loathing. It's like about her significance in general. Like her whole purpose was fulfilling her mom's vow and like keeping the family fed. And now because she doesn't have that purpose in the family, it's almost like she feels insignificant because if that was the only thing that she was useful for and not because she was an essential part of the family, they basically don't need her. And then in tandem, do not need her to be around.
Right.
Which is sad.
So sad.
Yeah.
Jinx.
Yeah. That's so sad to think because it's like, honestly, it's a little bit true in terms of how I took it the first time. But I think Tamlin sees that kind of shift in her. And so he opens up to her about like something else that maybe he wouldn't have brought up before, but it's almost like a good progression. So he says that he was, well, first of all, they say if I'm at the border, we don't need sentries if I'm here. So he's pretty powerful then as a warrior. All I was going to say was that he says, I spent most of my life in my father's war band on the border. Running these lands was not supposed to fall to me. So it's interesting that he says that because it makes it seem like, to me, like maybe he had siblings or, you know, because it's just Tamlin and Lucian that makes me think, yeah, where is that made me think, oh, where is his parents? Where is his, like, other family? Is this it?
Yeah, it's, I mean, yeah, I guess it's very empty. And he's like, oh, they're around or there's other people, it's fine. But she's like, I don't see anyone. It's just him and Lucian, as you said. And I think one of the things I was thinking about was, like, when he said that the lands weren't supposed to fall to him, it's kind of like the whole idea of like typical fantasy stories where like in royalty, one like doesn't want to take the throne. They just want to like live their own life, but then they're dragged into it because it's part of their duty. And so that's kind of what I imagined for Tamlin, is that he was just dragged into it.
I can see that. So we get some more information about the both of them, and I like to see that little bit of connection between them. But then, so he finally tells us what the manner of creature it was, so we get some more lore. So it's called a puka, and it uses your own desires to lure you to some remote place, and then they eat you.
Puka's such a cute name, and yet it's so gruesome.
Yeah, it's like everything besides... Which, okay, this sounds like so stupid. Everyone's like so scared of the high fae, but I feel like I'm more scared of the lesser fairies than I am the high fae, because they seem so humanoid and human-like that I'm like less scared of them, even though they're more powerful technically.
Yeah.
So he does talk about that the puka would not normally be so bold, but because of the blight, they're more rampant. And so now things have been weakened. And I like how at the end of this little exchange that they say, it's like Sparrow says, "What else is different now?" And he says, "Everything." Which is so ominous, but at the same time, it's like, oh, that's cool. But yeah, so after that night, 3 days have passed. And so basically it's sort of like a montage of Feyre going out with Lucien on Andreas' old patrol, Tamlin hunting for the bog on the grounds. And so it's kind of nice to see Lucien and Feyre bonding in a sort of way where they're not necessarily saying much, but being in each other's presence.
I think it's helping, I mean, of course it's helping their bond, but I think it's helping Feyre get more used to Prythian a little bit. And feels a little bit more comfortable, especially now that she doesn't have that burden of her mother's promise. Like, I feel like she's allowing herself to let her mind reset in a little bit.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, because I think Lucien at least knows that she's not like a terrible human being. I also just have to remind myself that they haven't interacted with humans in a really long time. So I can't imagine, like, I feel like they're just as uncomfortable as she is.
Is it weird that, like, now I think about it as, well, because they're so old, I think about it as, like, there's Tamlin and Lucien, and then Feyre is like, I mean, I know you said you didn't like saying she was like a kid to them, but she basically is, and so it's like two people who haven't spent a lot of time around kids all of a sudden have to like take care of one, and they're just like, don't know what to do. What do kids do?
I guess, like, I didn't see it like that. I guess because I think it's weird.
I mean, I didn't at first.
Well, even now, I think it's weird to describe her as a kid because obviously, like, this is a romance. And it just makes it seem weird.
I think, like, just age-wise. Yeah, age-wise, she's, like, a kid to them. But, like, even experience-wise, she's already... Even at 19, she's done a lot of things a lot of humans haven't.
She's definitely more mature than most of the other people that she's surrounded with.
Yeah, and, like, being a kid is not the same as, like, being, like, immature or anything like
that. So, I love how the one exchange that we do see during a dinner scene during those 3 nights is like, Lucien says, Tamlin gets into moods. Which
he's brooding.
Which is, I mean, yeah, that totally gave me the brooding, typical fantasy guy trope of he likes to do things himself and he doesn't like others to be involved because he doesn't want anyone else to get hurt.
Why is that me, though?
But I do like what she brings up, or like what Lucien brings up, because he brings up like an interesting thing about power. So he basically says, you don't hold on to power by being everyone's friend. And amongst the fairies, lesser and the high fae, a firm hand is needed. We're too powerful and too bored with immortality to be checked by anything else. I think that, yeah, right, that gives like an interesting perspective because they are old. So it's almost like they're in that, it's like when somebody talks about the Greek gods and you listen to them and it's like, oh, they just love to fuck with humans and they're just bored with their immortal life. So they just try to make chaos wherever they can. But it's like, they don't seem like that to me. At least these two fairies don't seem like that. If anything, they want peace for once instead of, like, chaos.
But they're dealing with the blight now.
So it's kind of nice because I think I just want to point out these little moments of when Feyre seems to sympathize with Tamlin in a term where it's like, oh, I understand the position, but that also feels very lonely. And like, you feel like you have to be cold. And so I think she understands that because of her position as being the hunter in her own family. It's very lonely, like no one else helps her, and it's almost like we said in the first episode, she's being very like the father figure. So she's being cold. She's being the voice of like, you know, realism and I guess even bordering on pessimism.
Yeah.
So I just like that. I like that a lot. So then we get to the first nightmare. So basically it's just kind of she's re-killing, in quotation marks, she's re-killing Andreas, but she's, in her mind, she's trying not to shoot it.
Yeah.
But
which shows that she regrets what she did.
Mm-hmm. So she sees it again, but it gets like so scary because she sees, I mean, that's the nightmare portion of it. She sees the skinned fae instead of the wolf. So she sees a skinned person instead of, which,
creepy.
Dude, can I just say, that was the first thing I thought of. As soon as I saw Tamlin turn into, like, a dude, like a physical guy, I went, oh shit, that guy was, Andreas had to be, like, a high fae, because they said he was high fae, like everybody else. So he obviously was more humanoid, and then I thought back, oh yeah, she did skin him.
And sold his skin at market.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So, like, if you think about it now, that mercenary is just walking around with skin.
Oh, that's so creepy. Though I feel like that's giving her so much perspective, because I feel like at first when you go back and you read the first scene, she's like, well, why are you so mad about a wolf? Oh yeah, because it was a person. And I don't think you can imagine a person being skinned.
Without thinking of it as like some kind of evil doing.
SJM has no fucking qualms with being gruesome, which I love to death.
No, she does not.
She will describe it and describe it well. So she obviously is full of guilt. She obviously wakes up from this nightmare and then starts roaming the halls because she can't sleep.
I mean, I wouldn't after that kind of dream.
No, me neither. And so obviously she's walking down the halls and she has a piece of parchment so that she's writing where the exits and entrances are for like a quick escape, and
like windows and everything.
I mean, I'm not like somebody who would probably map out the place, but I think I would try to get to know my surroundings a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So walk around, because it's not wrong for her to walk around the place. Like, he never said she couldn't.
Right.
So we finally, I mean, it was kind of, I don't want to say foreshadowed, but like, it was kind of said before, but I think here it actually clarifies. So Feyre is illiterate. She can't read and she can't write very well. She describes it as she was close to the age where she was starting to learn her letters and, you know, when they were still rich, but because they turned poor right as she was getting to that age, nobody taught her.
Yeah, and when we, like, went through it the first time, like, in our personal book talk, I remember, like, thinking, immediately, like, well, like, if she didn't learn, like, why didn't Nesta and Elaine help her, like, continue learning that? But then, you know, of course I thought, like, well, from what I know of Nesta and Elaine, would they have helped her anyway? Nesta probably didn't care, and then Elaine was too aloof. And so it's like, I guess she really didn't, like, learn, and she was too busy, like, keeping her family alive to learn to read.
They would have just made fun of her. Or, not Elaine, but I think Nesta would just be like, ugh, another reason why she's useless.
And I don't think, I mean, Elaine's not dumb, but I also feel like she wouldn't understand why Feyre didn't finish learning how to read.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, just to clarify that for the audience. So, in her kind of monologue that she's going through, she's sort of accepting the treaty now, and she's thinking about what she wants to do with her life because she's never really thought about it, which is sad because as someone who's 19, if we're talking about in like a real world sense, around 19 is like when most kids are going to college or they're like starting to go out into the workforce if they don't go to college. And it's like at that point, like you should start thinking about what like you want. Obviously you don't need to know what you want to do, but the fact that she's never thought about what makes her happy is the sad. Because she's only thought about others instead of herself.
Not being able to have that opportunity to do some self-reflection is just, it's crazy to me because I have spent so much time doing it myself. And it's just like, I mean, and at the time that I started reading this book, I had just turned 20, so I was around her age as well. And so I was like similar. It's like, well, I can't imagine like not really knowing what direction I might want to do, what things make me happy. So I associated with her on that level.
Yeah. So it's nice that she's sort of starting to self-reflect, but she's not really doing it. That makes sense. It's more like she's starting to realize it.
Or realize the fact that she can. There's a possibility for her to now.
Because she could basically ask for anything. And that's what he basically told her that one night.
They do seem pretty rich.
So I do want to... This totally gave me, like, a Twilight moment. So, because, like, I think Feyre is so smart, she starts to pick up on when he actually shows up, because, you know, the Fae are, again, they're not vampires. Let's make that clear. They're not vampires. They don't suck blood, but the thing is, they have super speed, and the fact that she says, a breeze announced his arrival. She picked up on it that time. It's almost like she was waiting for him to, or like, she noticed it this time.
I guess I had thought of it not necessarily as like his super speed, but like when I read the breeze arrival, I thought it was because he like just burst the doors open, and that was like literally a breeze, like wind coming through.
I guess like I was thinking of it in the vampire sense of just feeling like it's like, oh, there's someone behind me. I felt like the whoosh of air. Because if someone's physically running, they're gonna like feel it.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense, but that hadn't even occurred to me about the super speed.
Yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, so she notices he's there, and then she turns around, and he's very injured and bloody.
In beast form. He's limping towards her in beast form.
And so obviously that's a little scary, because she doesn't know if like he's going to attack her or not. But then he changes back, and then she sees that he's dripping with blood. So she's like, oh wait, did you kill it? The bog? Yes, he did.
Dang.
This totally gave me the Beauty and the Beast moment, though, of him getting injured and her helping him. Totally gave me that. I
hadn't even considered that. Oh my god.
Yeah, because it's like when Beast comes back from saving her. Totally is like, I mean, that moment.
I can see that now, but yeah, I mean, I guess when we talked about it the first time, just like, oh yeah, this is kind of similar to Beauty and the Beast. I'm like, yeah, I can see that. But now doing this, oh my god, I hadn't even realized that. I hadn't made that connection.
And I told you before, like, in this, like, these few chapters in particular is where you definitely see the heavy Beauty and the Beast themes. Like, Sarah did claim, and, like, she says this, that this was based on a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So, but it could be, like, it has moments like that where it is, but also it's totally not the same.
Right.
So it has its own specialty to it. So she sees that he's hurt. And so he doesn't like care that she's like asking about that. He's like, so what's the map for?
The fact that he knows immediately that it's a map, though, at least shows that she can draw.
Yeah, she has some sort of skill. But he's like, you can't write, can you? And I want to point out, if you have like the physical copy, if you're not listening to it on Audible or something, it says, there's like this voice in the back of her head, says, ignorant, insignificant human. That happens so often in this first part, where like, it's like, every time he says something like that to trigger that, it'll be like a voice in the back of her head telling her that she's stupid. Which is not what
I mean, we all have those little voices, but for it to consistently come back and the same words over and over, it's, ouch, my heart goes out for her.
It's sad because obviously to me, and especially when I read this the first time, I didn't take anything he said as like an insult. I thought maybe he was a little bit like, you know, sometimes I couldn't tell if he was joking or not, but I didn't take that at all as him trying to make fun of her. He was just stating something, but she immediately takes it as offensive because she's just so defensive of herself because of things like her sister has said to her, that she's no more than a wild beast and da-da-da. It's like, I don't think Nesta understood how much that did to her to say those things.
And unfortunately, I think that's also like a thing that happens a lot, is the people who say this stuff without really thinking, like just spur of a moment, both in this book and also in like the real world, like they don't realize what they're saying, like to what extent it hurts the people they're saying it to.
Right. So he seems to like compliment her like ferocity and like her like versatility in terms of what she's been able to learn with a limited amount of information. If anything, he seems like intrigued by the fact that she can do so many things with a limited mind, like limited set of skills. So obviously it's sweet. She takes him to the infirmary. Okay.
I didn't even think the place would have one, considering they're such fast healers.
And the thing is, like, it's something to bring up is that he's immortal, and the fact that he's not healing is a bad thing. Like,
that's scary. It's like, what? I mean, I guess, even though I knew that he was fighting the bog, like, in my head at the same time, I'm like, what could, like, have injured him so much that his healing can't keep up?
Right. So he's obviously helping her, she's helping him, like, you know, clean out the wound, put on the wrap or whatever, the bandage. Mm-hmm. I love this quote. He says, "You can't write, yet you learned how to hunt to survive. How? That's what happens when you're responsible for lives other than your own, isn't it? You do what you have to do."
And also, they're two different things.
Mm-hmm. But he also, I like how she brings that up, because I think that's a moment of connection between them, because literally Lucien was just saying the other night that, you know, he feels like he needs to protect the people on the grounds, and so he has a sense of responsibility to do it himself, which is the same thing she's feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the connection between them. And I also wanted to bring up how she brings up that this Tamlin is so strong that the High Lords have to be near gods if he's so strong versus, like, them. Which I was thinking that too. I was like, oh yeah, I mean, if Tamlin is this strong, there's dude, don't even want to mess with them.
I remember thinking, oh my god, yeah. I remember thinking when, like, that she was like, oh yeah, he's so powerful. I'm like, yeah, he is powerful. And then she's like, I can't even imagine the High Lords. And I'm like, oh shoot, there are people more powerful than Tamlin.
Mm-hmm. I was like, that's not a good sign.
No, it's not.
So I love that quote, and then so it ends with him saying, "You aren't what I expected for a human," which I can see how that can seem like an insult, but I think of it more as a compliment, because I feel like, to me, he wasn't giving off the vibe that was how it was intended. It was very much like, yeah, you aren't what I expected, but anyway.
Definitely not.
So I love this next part personally. I love this. So she's going down the staircase in the morning, and so she overhears this conversation between Lucien and Tamlin. And the most important things that I wrote in my notes to, like, pick up from this conversation are, first of all, Lucien brings up about how the barriers between courts have vanished, which ultimately is not good.
I think, no, it's definitely not good. I think I was thinking that, like, boundaries between courts, or, like, lands or whatever, are they, like, physical boundaries and now they've disappeared? Like, were they magic and the blight, like, ate through them, like the rest of the magic? Or something like that. I was very focused on the actual boundaries.
Yeah, because it's not very clear. Like, I totally thought of it as a European style. Like, there's not really a border. It's just more of almost like a property line. But if it was actual magic, well, because then as I reread it, I'm thinking, oh, do you mean like the borders are like vanishing? So like the seasons are intertwining?
That's interesting. I didn't think of that.
Because that's what I was thinking, because I was like, oh yeah, so like, because on the map you see there's autumn and summer above spring. And I was thinking, oh, is like summer leaching into spring? Is spring leaching into summer? Like, that's what I thought when he said that.
That'd be kind of cool, though. Not gonna lie.
To see the shift, but also, like, totally detrimental to their societies. Yeah. I love how, during this conversation, though, like, Lucien's like, I just want to know what you think you're doing. By the cauldron, Tam, there isn't much time, and you're just sulking and glowering. You're not even trying to fake it anymore.
Fake what?
Yeah, what did you think that he meant by that?
I mean, I think I was thinking, like, God, there were so many thoughts. First of all, the fact that she was able to eavesdrop on them. But, yeah, okay, well, they're saying, like, there's not much time and you're just brooding and stuff. Yeah, I get the brooding. I can see that. But, like, what do you mean not enough time? Like, I think that was the main thing I focused on. Because, I mean, like, we'll get to in a minute of, like, Feyre saying, like, what did you mean time? I was thinking that for sure, like, because they're immortals, right? So they've lived for so long, what could possibly cut off that lifespan? If it's even about death.
Yeah. I guess I didn't really necessarily have I think I was just in the zone at this point. I wasn't really thinking much about it, but as I was rereading, I was thinking, oh, is it because, you know, when I was thinking of faking, I was thinking, oh, like, are they fake being nice to her? Like, I was like, because it kind of makes it seem like they were. Because that would make sense, because at their beginning, where they were trying to do those really bad pleasantries with her that first dinner, it makes sense. But also, why would they try to be fake to her?
It's also, they're definitely hiding something from her. That was, like, the main thing. It's like, they're talking together, well, not really whispering, but, like, hush-hush, of, like, we're running out of time, but they're not saying, like, specifics. And then it's like, okay, so why haven't they mentioned any of this to her?
Yeah, because Tamlin says in particular, it was a mistake from the start. I can't stomach it, not after what my father did to their kind, to their lands. I won't follow in his footsteps.
So he did have a father.
He did have a father. It makes it seem like they are talking about her and their kind. Obviously, he's talking about humans. But also, I guess I didn't really think about what it was. I was thinking, just maybe he doesn't want to, like, enslave her? Like, I don't really know what's going on, but...
It's like, okay, so you're running out of time to enslave her?
Back off while you seal our fates and ruin everything. I stayed with you out of hope, not to watch you stumble. For someone with the heart of stone, yours is certainly soft these days. It's like, are you going to start living out there, slaughtering every bit of vermin that sinks in? This is the first time we're also seeing Lucien be a little bit saucy towards Tamlin. Because again, in their sort of rank, he's not obviously in charge of the manor, so he's being pretty...
And, like, in his ride with Feyre, like, the first time of, like, yeah, sorry, I don't have that kind of sway with Tamlin. And yet here, he's, like, just fully going at it.
Right. It's like, okay, well, do you, Lucien, though?
Alright, who was lying? Why are you all hiding something from me?
So, of course, she ruins it by leaning into the door, and, of course, they hear her. And it's kind of like, So, this is totally one of those moments of, like, Lucien fucking throwing Feyre under the bus and wingmanning the fuck out of Tamlin and being like, I'm unavailable, actually. He's not.
Even if none, like, both of them don't want anything to do with each other. He's like, you're gonna spend some time together whether you like it or not.
It's like, he'll go with you. It's like, no. But, though, does that not sound like every frickin' rom-com when, like, two people that actually like each other, when they go to a group event, and they're like, oh no, we'll just let you guys go. And they're like, no. Like, don't do that.
Don't leave us alone with each other.
And then they actually end up bonding. That totally made me think of that.
Imagine that.
So, obviously, she's like, no, I don't really want to go hunt.
I don't want to hunt. It's like, okay, well, what do you want to do?
It's like, okay. Though I do applaud him for trying to, like, joke with her at least. Because he's like, well, that's no wonder why you never catch anything. But he's like, he's like not the kind of guy to joke too often. So I think she's kind of a little bit surprised. She's like, that's weird.
And also that he's not forcing her to go on a ride. He's trying to make light of it.
But he does thank her for binding the wound. That was nice. At least to me, Tamlin seemed very genuine, and at times when I read this the first time, I was like, Feyre just seems so overtly defensive and angry, and it's obviously her, like, teen angst of, never feeling like she was worthy, and so this guy is, like, coming along and being genuinely nice to her, and she's just like, no, you can't be nice. It's like, don't say anything, because I'm going to take everything you say as something bad. So we also, learned that the bog's bite was crafted so that it would stop the Fae healing, which is like, oh shit, that's bad.
Yeah, not great.
Dude, one of my favorite quotes is just, in the middle of their conversation as they're walking through the manor, right? He says, has anyone ever taken care of you?
Ugh.
Damn. That is, like, the biggest motif, I think, throughout this whole first book. Is that she has never felt, and she has never been cared for by somebody else. Like, she's always been the one to take care of herself.
Yeah, and others as well.
And so, dude, especially when I read this the first time, like, besides my parents, I don't really think that there were other... I mean, obviously, when it comes to friendships, I feel like I'm always the one to, like, make the first move when it comes to being the one to be there for the other person. And so I totally understood what she was talking about. It's like, to sometimes feel like you're the rock and that you can't feel like you're, you can have a bad day. Or, because you're always the one that's supposed to take care of everyone. You're the one that's supposed to be okay, But... I love how he just goes full on comedic with this. He's like, so, cause I feel like he realizes through that question that it kind of triggered her. So she's like, so when are you gonna use that knife that you stole from my table?
Great lead in, Tam.
It's like, well, it's like, what knife? it's like he was trained, like, obviously he was, grew up as a warrior. There's no way that he wouldn't have seen it. But he specifically says, I was trained to notice those things, but I could smell the fear on you.
Dang.
Which is like
I was definitely thinking, they had to have noticed.
Also, I think it's something to bring up, especially if you haven't read fantasy novels. It's like, most of these creatures, like werewolf, vampire, fae, have just a heightened sense of smell. And so their heightened sense of smell can, like, smell even emotions. So you can't really pass anything by him. There's not really like a way to do that. But I think throughout this conversation, just what I've gotten from it is that he seems a little bit more genuine than he did before. Like those few times where he, happenstanced upon her when, she was going out to the garden made it feel forced. And I think this makes it feel more genuine. And so in turn, Feyre feels more genuine about it. And so obviously, I'm an immortal. I have nothing but time, Feyre. He said my name with such ... intimacy.
Even though he seemed to be worried and on high alert.
Mm-hmm.
Can you be on such high alert and also speak so intimately?
And I've said this to Liesl so many times, but now the audience is going to hear it. Anytime, like, if we're talking about in romance or just in love, I freaking, like, adore when a guy says somebody's name. Like, or, like, says, like, my name or a girl's name. Because it's, so lovingly.
Mm-hmm. And it's, like, showing the fact that, like, you're equals because you both have names.
Right. Not just her,
It's another level of connection, personal connection.
Mm-hmm. Like, I think everyone can agree that there's one time where, like, hot boy, hot girl said their name, like, kind of slowly, and it was kind of like, oh. I love that. So she obviously is, a lot of self-reflection at the end of the chapter. She's like, I didn't want to be caught in some brutal war or revolution. I doubted I'd survive very long. Which, as somebody who's read fantasy before, I'm thinking to myself, I was like, are you gonna avoid it though? Like, I feel like because you're in Prithian now, it's almost like you're forced to be a part of it in some way. I don't know what that way is going to be, but I feel like you are. So chapter 13, this intro to the study scene, again, such a Beauty and the Beast callback with, Beast showing, Belle the library for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And, how much in awe she is by how big it is. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe this is because I love Sarah, or just, when I read this the first time, she's such a comic in terms of this. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but the Belle in the story can't read.
I hadn't even thought of that. Oh my.
Yeah, because Feyre is the Belle of the story, but she can't fucking read.
Oh my god.
I know, Sarah, pure genius of making a comic like that.
God, this is making, actually, hang on, I need to think about this for a hot second. I hadn't even considered that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Dang.
I just rocked Liesl's world with that.
I mean, hey, you learn something new every time you reread or talk about it.
Again, yes. But when I read this the first time, I was thinking that too. I was like, yeah, so she can't read. And she's the Belle of this retelling? Okay, I mean, funny. Definitely funny. But, like, obviously she doesn't need anything else. She's just very guarded and stubborn.
Very, very stubborn.
I mean, we can both freaking understand that, but I think sometimes even to me rereading this, it's like, ugh, but why are you so guarded? And then that makes me sad because I know why she's so guarded. But so, obviously, because she can't read very well, she's going to try to make a note or, like, send a letter to her family, but she's not going to ask for any help.
Of course not. She's stubborn, and she doesn't trust them. Of course she's not going to ask for help.
It's, like, fair, but also the practical part of me is just like, well, it's going to take you forever. Just, like, ask for his help. Especially
when you get it out, the blight will have taken over the human lands.
I know, like, this is like, you're trying to get this out to them because you're worried because of what's going on. You need to get it out as quick as possible. Just, like, freaking bite the bullet and, just take his help.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the best you can do is ask about it.
Though I appreciate how, like, he lets her be.
That's true. Like, he doesn't push it.
He's like, especially, like, when he first lets her go into the library, he's like, hey, do you need anything else? Okay, you don't? Okay. Well, have fun.
She doesn't answer and he just leaves.
I like how he gives her the space.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's definitely commendable.
But also, I felt like when I was first reading it, he's like, okay, this is getting awkward. I'm just gonna leave.
That too. So she's sitting here trying to read, and it's not going too hot. And she's reading a children's book too, by the way. So she talks
Children's books can be deceivingly hard, though.
Children's books?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you talking about? Like, which kind of children's books?
I will say, for the longest time, I was very confused by The Hungry Caterpillar. It just confused me and muddled my mind. I mean, now I think I know it better, but...
Honestly, I'm not really remembering, like, what the words were in that, but wow.
The caterpillar ate the apple, and then it ate the banana.
Oh, I guess to me that doesn't... I mean, I understand.
Oh, no, I'm paraphrasing, but... Anyway, so I understand where she's coming from.
So as she's like, so this is like one of the most epic sort of things that I love to talk about. And I think when we initially, because obviously I'm going to tone it down a little bit as we're talking about this mural that she sees in the library. I think when I talked to it about it to Liesl the first time, it took us like maybe an hour and a half just talking about the mural.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, here's this and here's that and da-da-da. And so
I think the whole talking about the library scene, like from the start of going into the study to their little confrontation at the end, I think that whole book talk took us like 5 to 6 hours.
But we were also
all
like,
in one night.
Yeah.
We did make some in between, but 5 to 6 hours almost straight.
Right. So
it takes a while.
Thank God for the audience. I did a Cliff Notes version. So she loves, so also there's a rose garden, which I want to say that she sees besides the mural, like outside. And I'm like thinking roses. I'm like, oh, Court of Thorns and Roses. There's the rose garden.
I didn't even notice that. I was too focused on the mural.
Yeah, so there's this huge big tapestry, and it's just full of lore and information about Prythian. So it tells the story of Prythian, and it starts out, it shows a black cauldron, which we brought up in a previous episode where they, when they exclaim or when they, oh gods, it's like, oh, by the cauldron. So we actually get to see it, and it does look like, at least from their Fae depictions, is a black cauldron. It's literally just like, almost like a witch's cauldron.
Mm-hmm.
And there are slender female hands holding it, in a starry sky. And so obviously we don't really know what that means, but obviously I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, a woman beginning the world, maybe? Is God a woman? I don't know.
A powerful woman.
Because they don't necessarily bring up any sort of woman or goddess. Like,
that's true.
And so she also sees these kind of symbols, which are, shows the ancient Fae language, it seems. And so this cauldron is literally, it's being tipped over, and it shows that it's like forming the world that they now live in. And so the map spans the entirety of the world, not just the lands, but all the continents. So basically what she's seeing is what we see, which I thought such a great, thing on Sarah's part, because I think to me, as someone who she's human, right? Because we talked about this in the first episode, they don't have any map of Prythian. So the fact that she's actually seeing one for the first time is probably a big shock to her, because she's like, oh shit, these are the border lines. Here's all this. There's, the continent, and then there's this other continent on the other side, which is smaller, more island looking.
She finally sees what we see. Finally.
And so I like that I like that Sarah puts it into the novel instead of making it seem like she just knows it. And so what she does see is it depicts the war, the 500-year ago war, where it's like the humans and fairies against each other. And it's very gruesome and explicit, smears of black, smears of red. Though I will say, I will think this. When I read this the first time, they said humans against fairies, right? I'm thinking to myself, how the fuck did the humans win?
It's not possible for them.
Right. How could the humans even get to a stalemate where a treaty would be? It's they don't have magic. And then obviously this isn't a fantasy book where they have magical weapons that are in defense of, or, they have big machine guns or any sort of technology that could outwit the magic. So I'm thinking to myself, how the fuck did they get to a point where the treaty thing, could happen?
And it's also the case of even if somehow some miracle happened and the humans were able to win or get a stalemate or whatever, how would they have been able to convince the Fae and fairies to have this treaty?
So obviously we don't get any answers, but I definitely remember thinking that to myself. I was like, seems a little bit far-fetched for me, but I mean, what do I know? I don't know anything. So obviously she knew this, but seeing it, she sees that she's in the Springlands. She sees her village, and the Springlands are depicted with roses, which I also wanted to point out.
Mm-hmm. I did remember that.
It seems like the spring court is like cover, or like kind of the symbol is a rose, which I like. Also, I guess gives into the Beauty and the Beast thing.
Mm-hmm. I do remember like the rose gardens that Beauty and the Beast had.
And so as she sees more, she's looking at more of the map, she sees at the center of the land, there's a small mountain range. So it's like all these courts are, separated. And then all of a sudden there's just like this weird middle area where it's just like, it's only one mountain range. And it doesn't seem to be, when she says that there were 7 courts in Prithian and they were ruled by 7 high lords, it's like, I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is this part? Do they have like an 8th lord? Or is this like common territory? Is this neutral ground? Like
no man's land or something?
I was like, yeah, is this like, place dangerous? I'm thinking to myself, I was like, is it inhabitable maybe? I don't know.
It does appear to be a bare mountain, so that would make sense if it was uninhabitable.
And I love how it seems like from the mural, she says, the elements refuse to touch it. That's how she describes it.
Which is such a cool way of describing it.
It's like, that doesn't make me think that that's a good place to be. So maybe that makes sense. Because she's deducting in her mind, she's thinking that's where the cauldron first touched. So when like the world was created, she's saying that, or Feyre is deducing that that's maybe where the cauldron touched down first. And that's why it's so, that's why it's so kind of no manly land.
Yeah.
So I love how she does say, she's like, I'm never gonna go north, because it's like, it seems like anything up north just feels very scary and like foreboding, versus like the spring court seems very welcoming. So again, beautiful map, beautiful description. I would like highly recommend just even going through it again, because God damn. I feel like I pick up a different thing every time I read that description.
Exactly.
And specifically that one in terms.
And I'm always going back to the map as well.
Oh yeah, always. Especially in any new fantasy, I have to go back to the map. So, eventually she's like, oh yeah, I wasn't meant to see this. This definitely was a mural not meant for me.
Right.
And so obviously she goes back to her books, and I love how she's like crinkling up the paper and throwing it, and then of course Tamlin just, sneaky Tamlin just appears out of nowhere.
Scares the living daylights out of her.
Yeah, and
does that thing of like leaning back in the chair and then you lean too far back and almost fall.
It's like, oh, God, you do this all the time. So, how do I say? He's trying to, he says, I can help you with it if you want. And obviously she just takes it so badly. She's like, ugh, help a, insignificant, ignorant human or whatever. He's like, what? Why should I mock you for a shortcoming that isn't your fault? I owe you for the hand. It's one of those moments where like a guy will say something kind of stupid, and you knowing that they didn't mean it like that, but you hearing the word and just going, ooh, but why did you use that word? Like,
I know you had no misintent behind it, but no, not that one.
Yeah, you shouldn't have said shortcoming, because that just triggered her.
All of the words, all in Nesta's voice.
It all goes back to Nesta, honestly.
Nesta, why you do this to your youngest sister?
I know. And of course, like, then he gets angry because he's like, well, why the heck are you getting mad? He's like, you think I don't have anything better to do with my time than, like, humiliate you? And so... This is where kind of like the petty, like, romantic jealousy is coming in, where he's like, which is totally what I expected. He's like, well, you let Lucian take you on hunts. It's like, well, Lucian doesn't pretend to be anything but what he is. It's like, ooh. God damn.
I mean, it's true. Lucian is very open. Well, and as honest as we think he can be at the moment. And Tamlin's been very absent recently. So I can see the liking towards Lucian more. But yeah, Tam, that...
But I
your
think
jealousy is showing.
I think because they're so, like, they're butting heads at each other, it's because they both feel the same way. They don't want to open up to someone they think is going to, like, because they're both defensive. Like, they're so similar that's why they're butting heads, which makes it a good relationship. because they do fundamentally understand each other on a level. So, because like how I have it written in my notes is like, because Nesta and her manipulation, like she feels like she could trust Tamlin, but she's like stuck between a rock and a hard place because it's almost like she thinks she's the monster. It's like, so she's just gonna live like that instead of being like the quote unquote normal girl she is and being like normal, like the half wild beast. She's just gonna play that role. And obviously he storms off. But like even before that though, he like sees what like he says to her, and he like, you know, gets soft again, and he's like, "Oh, Feyre, like I didn't mean that, da da da." And then so she leaves.
Yeah, he sees the moment her face like is just like ouch, and he's like, "Oh shit, I've messed up, Feyre. I'm sorry." And she's like, "No, I'm out of here."
It's definitely one of those cinematic, right? One of those cinematic moments where it's like she gets so mad that she like goes and does something to like change her circumstance. It's like a motivation of sorts. So in doing so, and from what he said, she wants answers. She wants stuff. So she tracks down Lucien in his bedroom. And he already...
The fact that she knows all of his different places.
That's totally like that. I mean, I guess maybe I can understand why my friends thought then maybe he was a potential because of that. But I also thought it was like, oh, it's because she spent the most time with him. It makes sense.
She knows where all of his other places are. So, of course, she'd end up figuring out where his bedroom was.
So... I want to say that I wanted to bring up though that his room is in red and gold, and she said it was like walking through an autumn wood. So I just want to like bring up that description of his room.
The borders.
Right. And so I love how when she knocks, she's about to knock and he's like, "Come in, human." It's like, oh, well, yeah, he can smell me. He knows I'm here.
Or maybe like hear her heartbeat or something.
So I love this comical back and forth. It's like, I haven't seen you around. Da da da. It seems that you managed to get under Tam's fur enough that he sought me out and nearly bit my head off.
Tam's fur bit your head off. Sounds like a beast.
He's so funny. Because he's like, thankfully for me, there was a disturbance out in the western forest, and my poor friend had to deal with it in the way that only he can.
Tam can. He can't.
So basically, you know, she wastes no time. It's like, but it's good that you're not like the Suriel, you know, who can answer any question. He's like,
you bad.
He's like, what do you want to do?
He's like, oh boy.
It's like, oh, God damn it, I shouldn't have said anything.
I thought she was a dumb human who would just forget it.
So they go through this kind of interesting back and forth where she's like, so if I was going to do, what would I need? And he actually gives her the information. Like, he's like, so
if you were stupid.
It's like, if you were dumb enough, yeah, I would go out into the birch trees in the western wood and get like these freshly slaughtered chickens, and I would put like a double loop snare underneath it. Like she, it's like textbook what she needs to know. It's like, It's like, okay. But I love how he gives her his knife. I think it's sort of like a sign of goodwill between them.
Potential trust.
Enough to where he's like, well, if you're going to do something stupid, I might as well give you some sort of protection.
At least try and protect yourself.
It's like, goodness. Because he's like, ugh. It's like, okay, don't actually do this though, but if you do, I will be conveniently hunting on the grounds with my superior hearing. I might be feeling generous enough to listen if someone screams. But Tam would eviscerate anyone who told you how to trap a Suriel. I wonder, this is me thinking about this now and I didn't really notice it, is like, I wonder why they think it's, why would Tam be so mad if she went to go look for it? Because, I guess because it's dangerous, but also to me when I was reading this the first time is like, am I thinking that he maybe, like, I'm thinking of the romance aspect. I'm thinking, oh, does he like me? Or sorry, not me, sorry. Projecting. Does he like Feyre and Lucien knows he's starting to like Feyre and wants to protect her? That's totally what I'm thinking. Tamlin would be mad if someone told you because he wants to protect you, because he sort of kind of digs you.
He sort of kind of digs you, but doesn't want to admit it.
And then he says, I think I'm starting to like you for a murdering human. I think he's kind of past that, honestly.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's just rubbing it in her face.
Just because, it feels like he has to.
Yeah.
But so here we go. This is one of Liesl's favorite chapters. And well, one of mine too, but so we're going out into the western woods. Also, by the way, I totally picked up on this too. I was like, oh, that's where Tamlin is. Lucien literally said that Tamlin was in the Western Wood, like, in the previous scene. Like, he said that. Did you not notice that?
Okay, so I'm very oblivious, apparently, when it comes to these books. Oh my god, I didn't make that connection.
Yeah, and I literally said it too, like, when I was quoting it, I was like, yep, my friend had to go to the Western Woods, for a disturbance or whatever.
Dang. How did dang, I guess these 5 chapters are making it seem like I haven't read the books.
Also, dude, I've been reading this book ever since 2018. It's okay.
Almost 6 years.
I'm almost an expert in it, but
almost.
Like, I knew what was going to happen, like, because this totally gave me the Belle Beauty and the Beast moment of Beast saving Belle. Like, that totally, I totally thought that was going to happen.
Yeah, and I did, at least, I mean, I didn't get the connection of the Western Woods, obviously, so I didn't really remember that Tam would be there. But I definitely get the connection of Tam saving as the reference.
Though I will say how comedic it is that, like, Sarah writes that, and the baffled kitchen staff thought I was really weird that I asked for, like, slaughtered chickens to just go out into the wilderness with.
I mean, they don't know what humans do nowadays for fun.
Good thing they, like, just said yeah, like, honestly,
that'd be awkward if they didn't.
That's another, I think now that I think about it, that's another way, if she was a prisoner or if she was someone not respected, they wouldn't have given her anything.
True. She probably wouldn't have even been able to go down to the kitchens.
I think she has some sort of respect, and again, I was thinking that was kind of the romance aspect of Tamlin kind of digging her the whole time, but he's like, respect this beautiful human. I mean, respect this person.
Respect this person who we will be hosting for the time being.
A guest in our home forever. And so I do want to point out, I didn't really know what it was, and I don't really think it's anything, but so the lands were empty as the manor itself, though I occasionally glimpsed something shining in the corner of my eye. Every time I turned to look, the shimmering transformed into sunlight dancing or a nearby stream. And that totally reminds me of the garden scene where she felt like those two presences behind her. And so she saw like the shimmering.
I definitely recognize the shimmering as someone like watching her.
So yeah, the shimmering I didn't really understand. Like, I guess to me, maybe I actually thought that was kind of a foreboding sign. Because I was like, is someone following her? Is that maybe like Tamlin's magic maybe following her? Like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know what it would be.
That would be something, I think, like Tamlin, like he would, after having that spat, he would definitely be like, I must have some kind of magic letting me know that she's okay, since I'll be gone.
Which, I guess to me, I don't really think that is creepy. I think that's kind of sweet. That
it's protective.
Because she's, like feeling like she can go out more. Like, he's like, okay, but I'm not at the manor right now. So this is another form of protection because of the romance aspect. And so, she's walking through the woods looking for the best spot. And so she starts like thinking about stuff, right? So she brings up that I wondered in what ways Tamlin had to answer to its High Lord, or if it was his High Lord who carved out Lucien's eye. Maybe it was the High Lord's consort, the she whom Lucien had mentioned. Yeah, that kind of seems right, because most of the times lords have consorts. I'm like, I was like, I would think so.
That'd be like an emperor or something, or a king, like they'd have a consort.
And especially because they're like lords, and because we live in this sort of patriarchal looking society, obviously they're not like a lady, but they're more of a consort. So she lays the snare down, and waits for it. She's like talking more to herself and thinking, and she's thinking about kind of like immortality. And I like that this quote that I have, it says, if I were immortal, I might want a little variation to pass the time. I'd probably want to do more than lurk about a manor house. Because it seems like that's what Tamlin and Lucien are doing. Like, they don't really seem to have much other lives besides this. It's kind of to her, it seems weird that they're just such in this routine.
It's definitely a bit boring, like, because clearly they're powerful high fae, right? And, like, every once in a while, like, Tamlin is brought away to deal with disturbances and stuff. But, like, Lucien is just, like, chilling in his room, cleaning his nails, or every once in a while going for a ride or for a hunt. And it's like, okay, this seems really relaxed, considering, like, there's this whole blight thing happening.
Oh, and you know what I was thinking? He's an emissary, right? And maybe I didn't know, like, maybe when I read this the first time, I wasn't really understanding what an emissary was. I was like, aren't they usually people who don't stay at the manor house that long? They're like going to other courts. They're, talking with other people. They're traveling a lot. So I think I was a little bit shocked that he wasn't doing that, because I was like, what do you do? Is there magic where you like letter magic stuff to each other? Like, I don't know. I guess like Lucian's responsibilities, I don't really understand. So as she's thinking about that, dude, how creepily epic this was in the graphic audio. I actually shared this scene with Liesl, I think, one time.
You've brought up the graphic audio in every episode, even the spoilers.
because it's such a good reference text. It's like, it's so a movie in your mind. It's totally, I love the Suriel's voice. It's so creepy and it's so like perfect for the scene. It's definitely what I was thinking of. So she obviously goes towards it. I just, throughout this whole interaction with the Suriel, I like how she's like comedically bringing up Lucian every now and again, being like, he severely overestimated my skill. Like, it's like goddamn
he
Lucian.
Really wanted me dead.
This is bad. Why did he not warn me more? And the thing was, he did warn her, but at some point, like, he was just like, well, fuck it.
Have fun.
She just knows. So the description of the Suriel is tall, lean, thin, veiled figure in dark, tattered robe. So I'm thinking Dementors from Harry Potter. I'm thinking that's what they look like. Because you also don't see their face. Yeah. And so it has, oh god, it was the voice. It was a voice, one of many, an old, young, beautiful, and grotesque all at the same time. I can't even fathom what that sounds like, but the graphic audio does it justice.
That's good.
Also, the clicking, dude, in the graphic, it's such throughout the whole fucking scene, where you just hear these, like, click of nails every now and then, and it's so creepy. It just adds to the creepy factor element. Because when you read it, you can't really see it. You can't really see that. So she's talking to it. So she caught it. It's fine. It's like, the trap was for you. I haven't seen a human woman for an age. And obviously she tries to lie to it, but it's like, well, my mother told me stories. It's like, yeah, no. I love the test thing. It's like a foolish test. Like, just let me know what you want to know.
Just ask your questions and let me go.
Okay, but how casual, again, like this creature, and maybe this is why it makes Prithian so dangerous, it's because it, like, talks, and it's because it's, like, very knowledgeable. It's not just, like, like the puka, or, they talk, they have, like, sentience to them. You could get charmed by it in a way that it looks terrifying, but at the same time, you're having a conversation with it. And it doesn't seem to be necessarily deadly talking. He's just like, oh, let me just ask your question and then free me. Or there will be casual. It's like, oh, okay. So she asks, there's no truly a way for me to get home. So it basically tells her, not unless you seek to be killed and your family with you. You must remain here. If she tries to break from the treaty. So obviously that kills any thought that she was going to have about breaking it, which she should have known already, but
yeah.
But the clarification,
her last bit of hope,
yes, just got crushed. And so of course she's like, well, what do you know about Tamlin? Dun dun dun. Also, how epically he says it, just casually. It's like, be more specific, for I know a good many things about the High Lord of the Spring Court.
Say what now?
A what? Are you saying that it's like she has like all the 7 stages of grief just at once?
Yeah.
Are you saying that I talked back and I've been shitty to the High Lord of Spring?
Dang.
Also, like, fuck you to the Suriel to be like, I mean, you knew this was spring, right? It's like, yeah, I know it's spring. I just didn't know it was him.
Just like, shut up and let me absorb this.
So, yes, Tamlin is the High Lord of the Spring Court, which, you know what? I should have seen it, but when I read this the first time, it was a new world. I didn't get it. I was like, oh shit. I think you knew, didn't you? I'm pretty sure you guessed it before, like, I'm pretty sure you did. That he was the High Lord.
I think I had an inkling towards it. I'm like, if he's, like, this powerful, and, like, we haven't seen anyone else as powerful, and everything, like, and he was able to face, like, the bog, like, he's gotta be, like, up there at least, if not the High Lord. Maybe great friends with the High Lord or something.
I was very, like, dumb. I just didn't think about it. I was like, oh, wait, I was shocked. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense now. So yeah, he says basically, spring, summer, autumn, winter, dawn, day, night.
He just starts musing.
Dude, I love this, though. The 7 courts of Prythian, each ruled by a high lord, all of them deadly in their own way. They're not merely powerful, they are power. Dang.
Oh, that's scary.
Also, just me reiterating to myself, I'm just thinking, yeah, and this guy, this high lord, tried to, actually served her the first night. It makes so much sense why he and Lucien have this sort of arrogance. Mm-hmm. Not saying that they deserve to have it, because obviously no one deserves to have that much arrogance.
Right.
But it oh yeah, that kind of does make sense now. That it's like, but also it totally gave me one of those cool moments where I think it's because he likes her, not noticing. It's almost like I don't think he wanted her to know because he likes her talking back to him.
Kinky.
Well, yes, but in terms of just no, you're right. I mean, it totally is like guys are just obsessed with girls talking back to them, but I feel like it's more in the sense that no one has ever tried to talk to him like a normal person. Like anybody would talk to anybody. So it's nice that she didn't know who he was.
Uh-huh.
So she asked about the mask thing. So yeah, so we find this is the first kind of fairy that we're seeing, besides like the, the animalistic ones, that doesn't have a mask on. And so, I'm a member of no court. I am older than the High Lords, older than Prythian, older than the bones of this world. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I very severely overestimated myself. So here comes like one of my favorite quotes throughout like the whole series is stay with the High Lord, human. That's all you can do. He will shield you from it, so stay close to him and all will be righted. So apparently there's a shadow over Prythian, and so he's saying to stay with Tamlin because all will be righted then if she stays with him and just let it take its course, I guess is what he's saying. At least how I took it. But he also doesn't seem to be like, since he answered some of her questions, she's like, so what about the blight? What about this? It's like, he doesn't know you're here right now, does he? God.
No, he does not.
I have this highlighted too. He does not know that his human woman came to trap the Suriel. His human woman. I love how throughout all that's the first thing that she picked. It's like, wait, what? Which is why, okay, I definitely didn't think that, like, people in Prythian knew, obviously, he's the High Lord, right?
Mm-hmm.
In my political mindset, wouldn't it make sense that people would know that she's there? Like, the people in his court, I mean.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like when, a royalty or, when royalty or a celebrity has somebody staying in their house, or, like, you see them hanging out with that person, it's like, oh, who, like, whisper, who's that? I guess, like, to me, I was thinking the Suriel was kind of in that way, where it's like, ooh, well, we saw Tamlin going around with this woman, or this woman is living in his house. Is it? So I guess I was taking it as his human woman as everyone outside of them thinking that they're together. So that's kind of how I took, and obviously she doesn't like that because she's like, I'm nobody's. Powerful woman.
Nobody's.
But I think the most important thing to pick up from the Suriel's conversation is that he says to not look for answers. Because if she looks for answers after today, like, things will go poorly. And so he goes into the long monologue, which is obviously very important. So he brings up that so obviously on the map you can see that there's this place called Highburn. And he says it was ruled by a wicked, powerful king. Yes, a king, not a High Lord. So humans no longer exist in his realm. He has a throne of bones, of human bones.
Ooh, creepy. He'd rather do that than let go.
Gross. I mean, obviously there were gonna be bad fae. People like him who are like, yeah, humans should be our slaves, blah, blah, blah. But, so obviously he wasn't happy with the treaty that he had to sign.
Right.
So instead of, so he resents having to let the slaves go. And so basically what the Suriel tells her is that 100 years ago, so from today, from the present, 100 years ago, he dispatched his most deadliest as spies and courtiers to the other courts, as in, like, courts in Prythian, like, everywhere. On the continent, everywhere. Which isn't a good sign. And so to start this kind of, like, brutal war against the humans. And so he said, 50 years ago, when they gathered enough information, he made his plan. But nearly 5 decades ago, one of his commanders disobeyed him, the deceiver. And then he gets cut off. What did you think about that when you first read it? Because to me, if I'm giving my first analysis, I didn't think too much of it. Like, I think I was thinking, oh, like, I think Hybern is a potential down the road. Mm. Like, I didn't think he was going, or like, this idea of Hybern, I feel like that was more of an end game, like a Thanos thing, where like, he's the big bad down the road. I don't think that's what's gonna be, like, main villain of this plot.
I think, honestly, I don't know how that would tie in. First thought was like, right. I think my first thought along those lines was, well, first of all, I was struggling to keep up with the history lesson. I've never been good at history.
Yeah, so much information.
And yeah, it was a lot thrown at, and I'm just reeling by the fact that, like, yeah, I get that the Suriel is meant to answer questions, but, like, also, this is an ancient fae creature, an ancient fairy, that Feyre is just having a casual conversation with, and, like, getting a history lesson on Prythian from, and I'm like, I'm confused as to how this is happening. Like, I get that the Suriel is trapped, but, like, at the same time, like, can't it free itself? Is it, like, actually curious how a human managed to trap it? So it's just, like, willing itself to stay there? It was definitely very confusing, but overall, the parts I did follow, I didn't think Hybern would be a big thing.
I guess, like, yeah, I guess I didn't really think too much of it, but I was like, wait, the Deceiver? Wait, what's happening? Like, I think I was more reeling from the fact that Tamlin was a High Lord than dealing with other stuff that he said.
It's like, this Deceiver, we don't need to know about the Deceiver right now.
It's like, wait, Tamlin's a High Lord? But I do like how at the end of this, so he gets cut off, the Suriel gets cut off, and we're not alone. So the Suriel, again, remember, you know, throughout this whole first part of this book, Fae are evil, da-da-da. She's getting another example where the Fae is actually telling her to run first. Like, it almost seems like he's trying to help her. It's like, human, free me, and then you must run. Run back to the manor.
There's something special about Feyre.
I think so. I think a lot of people, when they read this the first time, forget how, like, you know, fierce and strong Feyre seems to them as a human, because they think of them, you know, obviously a quivering human like Nesta and Elaine were, in terms of seeing Tamlin at first, or, you know, cowering in the corner. She's not doing that.
No. In fact, she's going out of her way to find Fae.
So I think they have, like, some sort of respect for her in terms of that, and not being so scared of them. So we get we're just getting thrown so many new lore pieces. So
all at once.
Another monster. So the Naga. And I'm thinking, like, they definitely look like dogs, but they're humanoid, and it's fucking freaky. I think of them like hellhounds, but at the same time, like, yeah, they're, like, weird.
Like humanoid hellhounds.
It's like, ugh. So obviously, it's creepy how they, like, lure up on her. And so, like, she gets surrounded by them, and she, like, has her bow and arrow. But again, the arrows aren't of ash. They're just regular arrows.
Right, because of course Tamlin wouldn't have ash arrows.
Yeah. At least not readily available to her.
Right.
So again, this is also, I definitely picked up on this when I read this the first time. The Dark Mother has sent us a gift today, brothers, and a meal. I'm thinking the Dark Mother, are we talking about the she? I'm definitely thinking it has, like, something tied to the she they were talking about.
My first thought was, like, the Dark Mother is, like, is that the one who was in the night sky pouring the cauldron?
Oh, I guess, like, that's a way to look at it. I guess I didn't think
female hands in the night sky, so maybe it was just night sky, and then the land was created, and therefore light was created.
Interesting. No, I definitely didn't see it. Like, I thought of it as, like, oh, it's the she, maybe, like, like, it would make sense. And so obviously she's, like, thinking about her plan, and, you know, the Suriel is begging her. It's like, come on, human. And so
human, please.
The first, like, these are the kind of creatures she was thinking when thinking of Prythian. 100%.
Absolutely terrifying.
So this is very different than how it was, you know, this is almost like kind of a flip scenario. She frees the Suriel, like, she uses her first shot to free the Suriel. Or shooting for her own safety.
Dang, that's a moment of, like, creating trust.
I think that's supposed to be symbolizing that she sees their, like, I don't want to say human-esque nature, but, like, she gets that they're also things too. People in the sense that they're people that they can't just, they're not monsters that deserve to die.
Right.
In that sense. So obviously as soon as she lets it free, she starts, like, running like hell, and it's, like, a very epic running scene. And she does scream. Because she's like, oh, okay, I wonder if Lucien will keep his promise from hearing my scream.
Yeah, at least give it a shot.
Yeah, though kind of how, like, awkward that is, just to be like, and then, like, Like, the Naga are probably thinking, like, what the heck?
What the fuck is wrong with her?
It's like, okay, I guess we'll still run after you. And so she's, like, running and, like, crashing through the woods, running water. And she actually, like, shoots at them. And she actually shoots 2 of the Naga with the regular arrows and downs them.
That's, like, honestly impressive.
Dude, she's a human, like, freaking taking on, like, a pack of Naga.
And she doesn't even have ash arrows, and she still manages to kill one. Like, that's just testament to the fact that it wasn't the ash arrow that brought down Dreas. Like, it was skill.
I think, because, it's almost like the vampire thing. It's like, well, if I shoot it in the head, right, you're pretty much dead.
Yeah.
Like, I think so. Well, and they're lesser fairies, too. They're not, like, the ones that... I don't want to say the lesser fairies can't heal, but they're more animal-like.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that they go down easier. But I definitely don't want to step on her moment. It's definitely impressive. And so, obviously, she's being, like, such a badass, like, go to hell, da-da-da. But again, it's so weird that they can talk.
Yeah, it is.
The fact that
death is coming at you and just talking at you.
Oh, God, that's, like, terrifying.
Yeah. Oof.
When we're done ripping off your skin, you'll wish you hadn't crossed into Prithian.
Well, like, she was dragged here, but I guess you don't know that.
I guess they just thought that... I guess this is, like, at that moment where I'm thinking, yeah, I probably should have listened to Tamlin when, like, staying on the manor was better. Or in the sense of her trying to rough it on her own in Prithian is not a good option.
No.
It's like, it's actually better to be with him and be with a group than to be on your own. So I like that she kind of realizes that.
Finally.
Yeah, finally. And so obviously the Naga is like breaking her bow and, she's getting to a place where she's getting attacked. And so she knifes it, which, awesome. Also, SJM has no fear in being brutal. I'm going to keep making that clear.
Yeah.
She's describing it as, knifing it. And especially when Tamlin jumps in all Beauty and the Beast-like and saves her. Like, he's disemboweling them. He's fucking their day up. And then, of course, she's thinking to herself, she's like, yeah, he's a High Lord. I don't know what I was doing. This is a little bit awkward. Damn it. It's like, now I feel dumb. So, obviously, Tamlin makes quick work of them. Kills them. Though, I do think, it's gross, but I think it's sweet that he's gentle with her and being like, Feyre, are you okay? When he's, like, just covered in blood.
And, like, she's covered in blood, too, and she's, like, flinching away from him.
And I will say, I don't think she was flinching necessarily because of the talons. I think she was flinching because, in a more cinematic, like, epic, like, romance moment. I think it's because he saved her and she's having a hard time, like, why am I worth saving to him? Now I know that he's in this, like, really high position. Why the fuck am I worth this?
Right. It's so sad.
So that's why she's flinching. At least to me, that's why she's flinching from him. Even though he definitely thinks it's because of the claws and the blood and whatever.
Right.
Though I will say, I like how he doesn't immediately go, like, why the heck were you out here? Like, that's totally like a romance fantasy moment where the guy gets mad immediately. He's actually pretty calm. He's like, so I was like, tracking them through the woods. Good thing he was.
Yeah, thank goodness he actually showed up.
Also, he heals her. Like, it's such like a cute moment where he besides the blood, let's take the blood out of the equation. he takes his hand and puts a finger down her cheek, and then the magic heals her.
Or at least takes away, heals her and takes away her pain as well.
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually pretty neat kind of healing. So it doesn't just get rid of the wound, but it also, or rather, the wound is still kind of there, but at least it's no more pain. So she would still have that bruise, but she won't feel the pain of it.
This also shows that how more attentive he is to her than what she thought, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, he cares about, if I'm in pain or not. But then eventually it does get to here. It's like, wait, so why were you out here? Why were you here?
I didn't realize how far out I'd gone.
Dude, I feel like he knows she was lying, but he doesn't really know what to say. It's
considering he's also still I feel like he'd be in awe, right now, of holy shit, she just took down 2 Naga. and she's still a human.
Hot. It's hot to him.
Now he gets the difference between, like, she doesn't like to hunt, but she knows how to fight.
Oh, yeah. Even though she's never been taught how to fight.
Yeah.
But I like how, again, like, I'm gonna just reiterate how sweet he is to her. He's like, just to remind you, on the days I'm called away, just stay near the house. I'm not warning you to just warn you to try to clock your movements. I'm saying it to mean it.
Right.
I like how the quote that I have, it's like, not just for this, for saving my life, that the High Lord of the Spring Court thought I was worth saving.
God.
It's so sweet. Because this is definitely where I'm feeling sort of the romantic tension. I don't think that they're, I don't think they've fallen for each other yet, but it's definitely one of those nice moments where it's like,
friendship?
The first time in her,
Like friendship, maybe? Starting to
or like I'm surprised that somebody cares so much about me, because I haven't ever felt that. And she doesn't really know him too well, but he already thinks she's worth protecting. Though when this was totally one of those guy moments where he said, "Let's go home," and I'm thinking, let's go. It's like, it's not really home yet, my man. It's like you said that too early.
Yeah. It's not quite home, but maybe it's the place she's residing at the moment.
But I think it's sad though that she says she's like, she doesn't have a home anymore.
It's like,
because that place was,
yeah.
Right.
It was literally the door was destroyed off of it.
And I think it was supposed to symbolize that she never felt like it was home anyway.
Yeah.
Like, the hovel was never meant to be a home. Though I will say at the end of this chapter, so this is the end of chapter 15, she again reiterates what the Suriel said, stay with the High Lord. Fine. Easy enough. At least she fucking listens to him. She doesn't listen to anybody else, but she'll listen to the Suriel, I guess, because, again, he's the one with the most information.
And the one who actually gave her the information.
Mm-hmm. So we end the chapter with her and Tamlin walking back, and her not detecting a trace of triumph, or rather a deep sort of shame and defeat. Which, I guess, like, there isn't really a moment that I was thinking of with that. It was more, I think it's because he doesn't like killing.
Yeah.
I think he kills because he has to, but it's like one of those moments where he doesn't want to.
Which is, like, I think rare for us to see as, like, a High Lord. As we now know, he's High Lord. For him to not want to, like, flaunt his power, like, he claims he didn't want his lands, and he doesn't like killing, so it's like, what kind of High Lord are you?
Mm-hmm. Like, that's totally not what the legends said about them.
Mm-hmm.
So she's kind of, I think this like bit of section is showing us just how much all that stuff that she was told just kind of seems seriously outdated, but in the sense of very not true.
Yeah, very not
about
true.
What they actually are like.
Yeah.
So that was our conclusion to chapters 11 through 15. I'm so happy. This was like one of our This was one of our favorite. The Suriel is like one of our favorite moments.
I think the Suriel is one of my top favorite characters in this first book, and maybe throughout.
I would say so as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Definitely one of the top. And, like, there are some, like, in the later books who can contend a little bit, but still stays in my top.
Because he definitely just makes us think. Just all these funny memes and everything like that.
I love the Suriel.
So we hope you enjoyed this. Again, comment down below, like, follow our pages, follow our Facebook. Again, we're on YouTube, so go ahead if you want to go follow there. And, yeah, comment again, we'd love to hear comments or questions or things you'd like to hear us about, and so we'll see some of you in the next mini episode, and then the other people we'll see 2 weeks from now for our other summary episode.
Mm-hmm. So, and feel free to share your theories with us as well. Like, we're always learning new things with the rereading, and our families have started reading the books as well, and they each have their interesting theories that we didn't think of.
Oh yeah.
So it's always fun to hear new, and it starts conversations, and it's fun.
So we definitely had like a talk with both of them, and it was a fun conversation that we had in the Facebook comments. So yes. Don't be afraid to comment, and we'll like definitely comment back, and because like I'd love to hear what people think.
Yes.
So yes, we hope you enjoyed. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.
Bye bye.